Welcome back to World War Live, everybody. I'm your host, Conrad Franz, joined, of course, by nobody. This is the solo stream, and I know it's been a long time. It's been a minute. I hope everybody is enjoying, the early time of their summer. I apologize for being gone for a few weeks. I had to go a few places: Michigan, Iceland, uh, Tennessee, North Carolina, these sorts of places. So, I know everyone got out of the rhythm of World War Live every Tuesday evening, but it's great to be here. We've got some things to discuss, some blackpilling news, unfortunately, as well as some relevant World War III analysis, of course. So thank you all for tuning in. Of course, if you want to have any questions answered, be sure to send a super chat. I will answer everything that is sent in the super chats, and regardless of what you want to talk about. And of course, it helps support the show. If you want to support us beyond that, be sure to check us out in the description, worldwarnow.co, become a paid subscriber, get behind the Ether Hour paywall, and hear every episode of our premium show. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's good to be back Tuesday evening, 7:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is when we do all of this. I would like to see everyone in the chat let me know if you are here. Be sure to like the stream. That really helps us out. Realizing I probably need to shave. The beard's getting a little unkempt. Any, orthomaxers out there, forgive me, but sometimes, it gets really hot here in Texas. Sometimes you got to shave a little bit and let it breathe. But I hope everybody is doing well. Obviously, the latest episode of World War Now was released very recently. We had to insert a whole segment talking about the big drone attack from Ukraine. So, again, doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of new information about that recently. So, if you want to hear about the drone attack from Ukraine on Russia, be sure to listen to the latest episode of World War Now. That's obviously on the World War Now Substack as well, worldwarnow.co. It's also here on the World War Now YouTube channel, as well as everywhere else where World War Now content is posted. So be sure to check that out. We give some very deep analysis. It's an almost 3-hour episode, so don't miss that one. We talk all about not just what's going on, of course, in Russia and Ukraine, but have an extensive discussion about the Iranian negotiations, everything going on there, which, again, today, supposedly Trump, he said that there's absolutely no deal where Iran will have enrichment, despite the fact that he supposedly was presenting deals to the Iranians that would allow them small levels of domestic enrichment with supervision from the U.S. and other Gulf states. I see in the comments someone says, good show on Moranchuk. Yes, be sure to check out Jason Moranchuk's channel. I did a stream on there with Jim Jatras, who's someone I always like to yap with about World War III and geopolitics. So maybe I'll leave the link for that down below here. But yeah, just search Jason Moranchuk on YouTube and it'll come up on his live tabs. So be sure to check that out. Really great conversation about World War III prophecies, what we think is going to happen in the future. We got Alan Wong in the chat, chief moderator. Great to see you, my friend. Great to see everybody else. Hope to be back in the swing of this thing every week. Hope I don't want to take too many more weeks off this summer. Should be locked in. But yeah, no, going to so many places. I guess I didn't do any. I didn't prep for any kind of travel review, but of course, I see Father James in the chat. I want to thank him for having me speak at his parish, which was my first travel destination recently, to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Again, I had tried to record my speech there, but I only have the first 25 minutes recorded. So in the next few weeks, I should be getting that cleaned up and posted, I think, for everyone to hear that, my address to their parish brotherhood. Iceland was quite a beautiful country. Unfortunately, no Orthodox churches really there. There's apparently a site that has been set aside and is owned by the Moscow Patriarchate. But I as far as I can tell, it had been greenlit as of 2023 to move forward by the Reykjavik City Council. But again, 2023 was still in the midst of of the special military operations. So unfortunately, I think Iceland, being a NATO member, have been putting their foot down on allowing the Moscow Patriarchate to have presence there, because I'm sure there are some Russians working and living in Iceland that would like the church. As of right now, it's just a building, a fairly rundown building as far as I can tell, on there's a Orthodox cross on it. It's a fairly nondescript building on this piece of property that's supposed to be torn down eventually and built into a beautiful Russian style church. But we are going to have to keep. We're going to have to keep that in our prayers so that people like me, when we go to visit Iceland, can have the services and the sacraments. But we have Father James in the chat. It was wonderful. The brothers can't stop talking about your visit. Well, I'm very honored. I have been telling everyone about it. Your parish, your church is beautiful. It was an honor to serve in the liturgy, and it was an honor. Hold on, I'll get to that in one second. And it was an honor, of course, to speak to you guys. And again, I'm humbled that such good family men that are just doing the best that they can at their parish. You guys, beautiful small parish that you would want someone like me to come and talk and actually listen to what I have to say. So it was very humbling, and I hope I can do it again in the future. And I hope that more people continue to attend your parish, Father James, because I think you are doing the Lord, quite literally, even within the context of Orthodoxy, very much doing the Lord's work. So thank you very much. We have $5 here from Paisios. Chris Wilson asks, will you discuss Nick Fuentes critiquing your favorite host, our favorite host, Dimitri? No disrespect, Conrad, but Dimitri is the man. Didn't realize everyone liked Dimitri so much more than me. And I haven't even seen this. So if everyone's asking me about Nick criticizing Dimitri, I haven't even seen this. So guess I'll check Twitter. Maybe I'm just completely missing this, but not seeing anything. Maybe someone can link it in the chat because I can't see what everybody's talking about. But Jonathan Kelly, $10. I was told to stop spending money on super chats. Oh well. Well, whoever told you that, they're anathematized. Just kidding. They were wrong. So thank you for the $10, really helping us out here. The super chats, the streams, again, the regular streams, they on average were able to generate actually more income than just doing the ether hours. So obviously I enjoy doing them. It's good to stay plugged in. They also, of course, act as a sort of midway point in the week for me to discuss and stay in touch with World War Now related things, because a lot of times by the time we're recording on Friday, between Sunday and Monday, things that happened have already sort of gotten lost in the wind and the news cycle. So it's important to do this in the middle of the week. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Paisios, for the super chats. I don't take it personally that everyone likes Dimitri more than me, but alas, Dimitri is a disembodied phantasm. I'm able to sit here in front of the camera incarnate. So you're stuck with me for a certain level of content. But again, appreciated everybody. Unfortunately, the black pill news that I was going to discuss, that it's not really breaking news, but I really did want to dive more into it. And there's there's breaking news coming out, or rather analysis coming out about it every week. And that, of course, is the removal of Metropolitan Tikos from his cathedral seat in Paphos. I'm going to share some screen here. Give me 1 second. And of course, the Cypriot Synod, they voted. It was 10-6 vote to have him removed, despite the fact that the canons, the rules for the Cypriot Church call for a 2/3 majority to have a bishop removed. So it should have been a minimum of 12 votes necessary to have him removed. But they classified the synod meeting instead as an ecclesial trial, in which I guess is an arbitrary distinction meant to allow this breaking of the rules to go forward. Excuse me. And some of the accusations leveled against Metropolitan Tikos were, of course, that he was refusing to conduct mixed marriages with Orthodox and non-Orthodox spouses, that he was refusing to receive people in any other way besides baptism. Of course, that he was regularly refusing, or at least at one point was refusing, to concelebrate the liturgy with the Archbishop over the Ukrainian schismatics issue. And then, of course, this article specifically points out the hypocrisy from the Archbishop about one of the accusations, which is that Metropolitan Tikos consecrated a chapel in honor of somebody who has not yet been formally canonized. And of course, in this case, it was Elder Nectarios Vitalis, who was miraculously healed of cancer by St. Nectarios of Aegina in 1980. He became a beloved spiritual father in his own right and reposed in February 2018. However, of course, it is well known that in the Limassol diocese, for example, St. Joseph the Hesychast was publicly venerated as a saint long before his formal canonization. And of course, we know that His Eminence Metropolitan Athanasios of Limassol, who many thought would have been the archbishop back when this election was held a few years ago, he voted not to dethrone Metropolitan Tikos, along with, of course, beloved Metropolitan Neophytos of Morphu. However, great reporting here from the Union of Orthodox Journalists Greece Division. They revealed that the archbishop himself, Archbishop Georgios, who's ostensibly the one leveling these charges of canonical violations against Metropolitan Tikos, he did the same thing. This outlet shows a photo of a marble plaque from a church of St. Ephrem of Neamakri that states that the church was consecrated by then Metropolitan Georgios of Paphos on July 13th, 2008. However, St. Ephrem of Neamakri was canonized by the Patriarchate of Constantinople 3 years later, on March 2nd, 2011. How then is it possible for the Archbishop to accuse Metropolitan Tikos of an offense which he himself has committed, the outlet asks. This information is confirmed by the parish entry on the Metropolitan of Paphos' own site, which states that the church had opened even 2 years before the consecration on December 6, 2006. The church was consecrated not just by then Metropolitan Georgios, but also Archbishop Chrysostomos II, who was the primate of the Cypriot Church at that time. According to the Union of Orthodox Journalists, Archbishop Georgios was recently asked by a journalist if he has ever consecrated a church in honor of a non-canonized saint. He responded, "No, I haven't done anything like that." Well, we know you did, Archbishop Georgios, and unfortunately we know that the reason this was convened and the reason that Metropolitan Tikos was dethroned is because Patriarch Bartholomew sent a letter personally and demanded that this occur. And of course, Paphos is sort of the second city, the second see of Cyprus after Nicosia, where, of course, the Archbishop, the primate of Cyprus, which is an autocephalous Orthodox church, resides. So there's the past two archbishops, maybe even more than that, have been decided, or rather have come from the See of Paphos. So they were afraid that this young traditionalist hierarch would become the next head of this autocephalous Orthodox church. So they had to nip this in the bud. This also shows you how far the church has fallen, because, you know, they would do this to Metropolitan Neophytos if they could, but he's too old, senior in the synod, and well respected, that they obviously are not able to do this to him. He's been a bishop for almost 30 years at Morphu, but Metropolitan Tikos, just 2 years in, you know, still dealing with the politics of the whole thing. Clearly they were able to do the bidding of the ecumenical patriarch, which is very unfortunate to see. And I know in my latest episode I referenced how I was going to be writing an article about some things that happened to me and my party in Cyprus that has to do with this. And I've hinted at some details of it in the past, and unfortunately that article is not going to come out. Metropolitan Neophytos told me that, and told some people I was talking to, that it wouldn't be ideal and that right now we should wait for things to play out. And he seems to think things will sort themselves out in this regard, regarding the prophecies and other things. So keep Metropolitan Tikos in your prayers, keep the Church of Cyprus in your prayers, keep the canonical church in Ukraine in your prayers, as well as every Orthodox church around the world, that we would be free from schism, and that, you know, the new crew of the ship that St. Porphyrios, of course, speaks about could be, sorry, I was looking for the earlier post, could they would arrive. See, here is me with Metropolitan Tikos. I say right here, another new crew member that's fulfilling the prophecy of St. Porphyrios through his episcopal rank. It was an honor to meet him. His office was quite wonderful. He gave me an icon of Saint Panagiotis, and I believe it's Saint Panagiotis of Caesarea. I can grab it really quick. I can't remember 100%. Maybe someone in the chat can tell me, but that was a gift from Metropolitan Tikos. And it's it really, when I heard that he was actually dethroned, it really blackpilled me, because his ascension to the throne was such a big white pill and such an encouragement. But not only, you know, is this, you know, disenchanting and disheartening, but apparently Metropolitan Nikiforos of Kikos, who literally wrote the book on the ecclesiology of the Ukrainian schism and how the ecumenical patriarch is in a neo-papist violation of the canons and of Orthodox ecclesiology, the fortunate reality is that he also voted to dethrone Metropolitan Tikos. So I don't know if there's a blackmail situation going on. I don't know if it's just politics. I don't know if he's just grown tired of the fight and has thrown in the towel and is just siding with the establishment. especially in the aftermath of Archbishop Georgios' ascension to the throne, which was also sort of a hatchet job. Metropolitan Athanasios really should have ascended, but unfortunately, certain other parties, even that should have sided with the traditionalists, decided to throw it in for the ecumenists, which that's exactly what happened. But, I'm confident that in the next few years, perhaps we will see a more traditional Archbishop of Cyprus arise, but I'm not going to make any predictions. But Metropolitan Tikos, I pray that he is able to return to his rightful place, of course, as the Metropolitan of Paphos. But of course, anyone has any further questions, be sure to leave a super chat. It's good. We always have a solid crowd here, even with the lack of momentum from the past few weeks of streaming. So thank you all for tuning in. I was going to switch here to the live UA map to talk a little bit about what's going on in Ukraine. Of course, the recent news has to do with the big strikes and the planned bombing attacks on the Kerch Bridge in Crimea, also surface to air, or rather water surface drones, these boat drone things have been swarming Crimea as well. The Ukrainians, this seems to be their response to Russia's demands that they obviously recognize the 2014 annexation. In the midst of all of this, of course, Russia has been launching missiles at Kharkov. There have been rumors that in response to the drone attack or in other attacks, like, for example, the train terrorist attacks that occurred in Bryansk and Kursk Oblast, that there would be Oreshnik missiles launched, but it appears that we have not seen that yet. Obviously, Russia is, despite the fact that their demands that they revealed at Istanbul mostly have to do with the banana, of course, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson, there are, fairly substantial footholds at this point in Sumy and Kharkov oblasts, and Russia, again, calling these things a buffer zone. They haven't been calling for any kind of referendums or annexations just yet, but based on how, again, Trump seems to be hardening his stance on negotiations, both in Russia and in Iran, but with the fact that this first round of, this kind of first revelation of a full list of Russian demands was revealed, I think it's establishing a baseline. I talk about this on the stream with Jason Moranchuk and Jim, but basically, this is sort of that baseline they're establishing, which I think would be the ultimate Pyrrhic victory, maybe the minimum of a strategic victory for Russia, where they, of course, take all of Kherson, Zaporozhye, Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, get security guarantees from Ukraine about not joining NATO, get them to demilitarize, get security for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in the Russian language. These things are all good. But again, at this point, if on the battlefield you already have parts of Sumy, parts of Kharkov, and even parts of certain other oblasts that have been occupied for quite some time now, it's clear that that is the baseline minimum that they're going to be demanding. And the Ukrainians haven't shown that they're willing to accept anything close to that. So as far as I can tell, this thing is still very much set to be decided on the battlefield before anywhere else. We have Alan Wong, $100. This is crazy. One of the biggest donations in World War Live history so far. Alan Wong, $100. Blessed Ascension Feast. Yes, Christ is ascended. He has taken his seat at the right hand of the Father. Death was trampled down by death, and now the church militant reigns here on earth. Christ reigns, and his body lives out here, where we are able to take in his body and blood every single week, every single day, depending on where you live and what your parish celebrates. But of course, Ascension has come. Pentecost is on the way. So I hope everybody, at least in the Antiochian Church, enjoyed their prolonged feasting and are preparing for the Apostles' Fast, the Dormition Fast, and the other fasts that are coming up in the impending months. So again, thank you, Alan. Greatly appreciated. You, of course, not only financially support, but you keep the riffraff out of the comment section. I still haven't seen anything that no one sent any links in the comments about what Nick supposedly said about Dimitri. I'm very curious. I'm wondering what could have been said, but the only thing I could assume was if, Dimitri made an engagement bait post and Nick called it stupid, but I'm not seeing anything like that. Maybe it's on Telegram. Do I need to check Telegram? Let's find out. Haven't seen it. Was it on the show last night? I didn't watch the show last night, so maybe I missed that as well. But someone can send it to me. I'll happily reference it, give my take. Obviously, I'm going to stand with my brother in Christ, Dmitry Kalyagin, my co-host, brother in arms. We are not. It's not like anyone's selling anybody out here. But yeah, the live UA map, Russia again. They've made. I haven't heard of any Ukrainian advances on the front line in months at this point. But unfortunately, none of these gains are enormously substantial. It's the same attritional warfare we've been seeing for quite some time now. And while sure, we have heard rhetoric from high-level people about Odessa, about Kharkov, these places, it's clear that, again, without some kind of mobilization, which even then, it's clear that they're sort of relying on an institutional collapse for some of these places to truly come under their strategic control. So the Ukrainians have proven themselves able to far surpass the expectations as far as frontline collapse, political collapse, all these sorts of things. So the Russians are either going to have to tighten the screws, dramatically increase, I think, their information war capabilities and tactics if they want this to work, or they're going to have to, which Jim points out obviously on the stream last night, start targeting actual decision-making centers in Kiev, SBU headquarters, military headquarters, Zelensky's office, these sorts of things. But the Russians seem unwilling to do that. So, here we are. But again, I think if in the coming weeks there isn't pretty much what we would call a rapid and dramatic escalation, unfortunately, we might have to start accepting that the Russians and at least the current administration and military leadership are not as serious about this as many of the patriots who have been forced to become dissidents at this point. I'm talking about Strelkov, other members of the Angry Patriots Party, people like Stremosov and others who have been sort of taken out. That is, unfortunately, they are becoming more and more vindicated. But I want to encourage everybody to listen to some of our recent Ether Hour episodes. I'm going to share this tab. Be sure to check out our recent episode with Father John Whiteford, where we discuss the church in Ukraine, ecclesiology, the Sister Vasa situation. Father John gives us some very necessary and important context there. Obviously, we talk about the relationship between the Moscow Patriarchate, the Ecumenical Patriarchate, the latest laws in Ukraine, how the U.S. government is responding, everything going on there. Of course, Israel, Palestine as well. Father John gives us a great discussion and a great analysis of how Orthodox Christians should be responding to that conflict. And Father John, great friend of the show. We hope to have him on more in the future. Obviously, you can also check out our latest episode. And of course, tomorrow, the replay of this recording will be played back for everybody to listen to. But yeah, still not seeing anybody. Unfortunately, I just felt like sending money and somebody asked a question. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on. Well, appreciated. The money is always appreciated. Perhaps Chris Wilson can provide receipts because I'm not able to verify what was being talked about. But some of the other things I wanted to talk about, again, we discussed because we recorded that later segment, I discussed most of the news, even of the past day and a half, on episode 120 here of World War Now. So everyone should go check that out. Like the episode. I want to make sure that we're getting, at least 45, 50 likes on every single one of the episodes on Substack. That really helps us grow and stand out in the algorithm. So if you're listening on Substack or listening on YouTube at all, just go and like the episode on Substack or YouTube, like it on the other platform that you didn't listen to it on. Really helps us out. So greatly appreciated. But the other thing I did want to talk about, of course, is the Palantir thing, which again isn't getting quite as much attention as it should from the online right, because so many people are on the Teal payroll themselves and are effectively part of the network that empowered Trump for the purpose of putting a database like this together. The big announcement, I actually need to pull up I pulled up an article and I lost it right before I went live about this. So gonna have to pull that up in a second. But of course, everyone has seen the news about the new Palantir database. Alex Karp, CEO of Palantir, Peter Thiel, founder and investor. First of all, Peter Thiel has tripled his net worth in the past few years because his political investments have very much paid off. His man, J.D. Vance, is quite literally the vice president right now. So obviously he is very much, I think, cashing out on a lot of these government contracts. Of course, supposedly Palantir has a $795 million pending Department of Defense contract on top of $113 million of other government federal contracts that the Trump administration has brought forward in favor, to work with Palantir on. And hold on, maybe it was Whitney Webb that was posting about it, but she really posts. But this all also ties into the big beautiful bill that everybody is talking about. There was the post about the big beautiful bill. It's some unfortunate stuff that's in the big beautiful bill. That, again, the legislative branch in the United States, I mean, everyone already is aware of this, but for those that don't know, the United States is ultimately supposed to run on the legislature. The president and the courts are ultimately supposed to enforce and verify the laws put forward primarily by the Senate and Congress, but throughout the House of Representatives. But now, because of political gridlock, partisanship, money in politics, these sorts of things, the only way that any change can get through is through executive action, and then whether or not it's supported or struck down by the courts. Try to remember the last time an actual law that was stood alone on its own for what it did passed through Congress and it actually was implemented and became something you had to worry about in your day-to-day life. It doesn't happen. It's these big omnibus spending bills, these big budget reconciliation bills where they just pack full of pork, and it puts all sorts of things. And then, of course, they put in some necessary, important political goals that the, of course, empowered party ran on and need to pass, but they fill it with all sorts of pork. And here I'm looking at a post from CIG right here. It says Trump's big beautiful bill includes a provision that prevents all 50 states from regulating AI for the next 10 years. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has awarded Palantir Technologies major contracts to build an expansive federal data platform using its AI-driven Foundry software. The system integrates Americans' sensitive records from the IRS, Social Security Administration, Immigration Services, and other agencies to centralize surveillance and decision-making. So you're getting, this is quite literally the type of thing that it's very similar to what St. Paisios warned about, how they're going to be putting the government's going to be putting all your information for all of your agencies together. You're going to be able to have it all in one card. He said that you should try to keep as many cards as you can, for example. And this is clearly, in that exact same spirit, going the opposite direction. But the other big thing, of course, is Alex Karp, for those that don't know, is a radical, liberal, almost communist even, Jewish supremacist Zionist. Of course, Peter Thiel isn't a Jew, but he's a homosexual Zionist as well. And Palantir, their biggest contractors are the State of Israel and the CIA. Of course, Palantir's only customer for the first 8 or so years of its existence was the CIA. Many people on the inside have testified and shared that it's pretty much a front for Mossad. And they're even involved in creating, the AI beast system that targets, tags, and IDs Palestinians. It allows and selects and tells the IDF which Palestinians should be targeted, civilians or otherwise, who's sympathetic to Hamas, who isn't, these sorts of things. So when you see someone getting drone struck in Gaza or somewhere, Palantir likely provided information that allowed them to be extrajudicially murdered, especially if they were non-combatants, which is very often the case. I'm sure the data from the Canary mission will happily make its way into Palantir's data services. And the Canary mission is, of course, just a service, just a website that doxes and harasses anti-Zionists, people that have stood up against Israel and their genocide and their control of the American state. So it's very unfortunate. And it appears that, again, the PayPal mafia and their tens and hundreds of millions of dollars to subsidize Trump, it isn't just going to secure West Bank annexation for Israel and Greater Israel. It's going to secure both. It's going to secure the interests of both factions of world Jewry. It'll secure expansionism at home for the Zionist right-wing Jews, and it will secure basic Skynet-level surveillance, tag tracking and IDing, surveillance, persecution, and just basic disempowerment, and ultimately the locking up of all anti-Israel dissidents at home, anti-Israel right-wing, quote-unquote anti-Semitic white people, Christian people in the United States will be rounded up and neutralized as a threat to world Jewry and Israel. That will all go down under the Trump administration. So again, everybody talks about how, Israel this, that, it's right wing, we're identitarians, we're nationalists. That means we have to put aside the Palestinian humanitarian bleeding heart nonsense, and we need to just embrace right-wing authoritarianism, Jewish Straussian white nationalism. And who cares if some foreign students get deported? Who cares if Harvard isn't allowed to have foreign students anymore? Who cares if Palantir is spying on us and has databases and we're 5 years away from a domestic drone kill grid where if you say the wrong thing, you're going to get taken out by a reaper from the sky? Who cares about that, man? We're about to get a wall. Maybe if this bill is passed, we can deport a few hundred illegal immigrants a day every once in a while. It's pretty awesome. And so, unfortunately, I'm not falling for it. But everybody with a blog or somebody everyone's trying to get in the White House press room or trying to get a job in the Trump administration, they would never tell you any of this because they're benefiting from it. They are either getting payouts from Twitter, they're getting paid from Influenceable or any of these other groups or any of these other sponsorships to obviously not say the truth, or they are simply so stupid that they're not worth listening to begin with. So, unfortunately, you need to recognize that while Trump himself may not be interested in war with Iran, while Trump himself may not even know that much about Palantir, the people that paid for this administration, the people that funded this campaign, they're cashing the check. And that's going to get done. The other stuff, the stuff for PR, the stuff to keep the goyim happy, the red meat for the base, that's all pretty much incidental. And it also is pretty much the things that are, the best of the red meat are still things that are very much allowed to happen within the kosher paradigm. I'm talking about, of course, Trump calling out white genocide in South Africa, which I support. I think it's the right thing to do, but it was only sanctioned and allowed to happen because South Africa is prosecuting Israel for genocide in the International Court of Justice. So what do? Well, you're prosecuting us for genocide. We're going to accuse you of genocide. You're black Africans. Well, lucky for us, you happen to be genociding your white population. It may have also happened to be Jews that, propagandized you to do that and supported the fall of the apartheid regime. But put that aside for now. We have a different interest, and now that is standing up to your government, which is from a left-wing humanitarian perspective, making us look bad at the international level. So that's what's really going on there. Even if Trump's motivations there are, legit, I think Trump obviously has, some sympathy for the white man. He's clearly, maintained some sort of frame without ever having to disavow the white man himself. But he's also, tried very hard to avoid any overtly, I guess, as you could say, ethno-nationalist statements. So that's what's going on with Palantir. That's what's going on with the new database. The specific pieces of information it will combine are tax filing, student debt, Social Security, your bank accounts, your medical claims, your immigration status. So be by far the most centralized information database, the most extensive network of just general human categorization that's existed in the history of the United States federal government. So pretty scary stuff. Again, I've talked about Project Pogo, Project Zypher in the past, how people like Stephen Miller, even very right-wing people, have long been in favor of these sort of total control matrix systems that will suppress criticism of Israel, any kind of discussion of Jewish power, and we will start to look like something, out of Minority Report or something. Or, imagine, Germany's already bad enough. Imagine that with full AI integrated technology. We're going to have that here in the United States. And unlike Europe, we haven't had this slow buildup. We still, for better or for worse, have free speech. So when this stuff hits us, it's going to be a big change. And a lot of people are going to find themselves on the wrong end of the law, I think, because they don't actually think this is real. But unfortunately, it is. And when you understand that like 11,000 people a year in the UK are put in jail for things they say on the internet, and that's before these types of systems have been integrated and real laws have been passed in line with these sort of international statutes on anti-Semitism, then you realize we're unfortunately in for a very grim future if we don't regain some form of sovereignty. But we have $5 here from Paisios. Do you think because of the system it's time to move from America to Russia and other places? And do you think you'll have Father Mark on Ether Hour? Well, I talked to Father Mark about it. He didn't really seem like he thought he had much to say. He is over 80 years old. And, he says he doesn't want to, say anything that would get anybody thinking any type of thing. So, he's just out doing his thing. Most monastics aren't super interested in coming on the show. I've talked to many of them. Obviously, I don't initially ask my first time I meet them, but I get to know someone, I inquire if they would be interested, and most monastics, again, they're interested in praying and not being famous or known to the world. So again, the monastics we've had on the show, Abbot Trifon, he has a YouTube channel. He sort of has a public ministry, has for a long time. So there are, of course, exceptions, but as of right now, we have only had one monastic on the show, so it is somewhat of an exceptional thing. But Father Mark's a lovely man. Everyone, be sure to check out the recent posts I've made on Substack, Twitter, Telegram about supporting Joy Valhusaro Monastery in Monteagle, Tennessee. That was one of the things I did. Of course, after Iceland, I did drive out to see some monasteries. Went to the Great Smoky Mountains, did some hiking. Saw Father Mark, Abbot Mark at Joy Valhusaro Serbian Orthodox Monastery and in Monteagle, Tennessee, and then went to Glorious Ascension Monastery, Rokor, in, I believe, Rensaka, Georgia, which is the oldest English language monastery in the United States. So it was a joy to celebrate liturgy there that Sunday. And I climbed to the third tallest point on the eastern seaboard in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. On the way back, went to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and now I'm back here in Texas. But it was good. Many monasteries on the East Coast that people aren't aware of. Most people aren't aware of Father Mark's Monastery in Monteagle. So if you're near the Chattanooga area at all, or you're in northern Georgia, be sure to check it out. It's a beautiful place, and I think could use some support and could use some, moral support in general, so that it can, keep doing what it does and supporting a prayerful man and hopefully more prayerful men in the future. But thank you for the $5, Paisios. Your support is greatly appreciated. Also, for anybody that wants to get behind the paywall on Substack, the Q&A thread for the next Ether Hour episode will be dropping soon. Be sure to, again, get behind the paywall, ask questions. That obviously occurs in the Substack chat function, so it will also be sent to you as an email. But yeah, I believe either tonight after the stream or tomorrow morning, I will be sending out the Q&A thread for you to ask any number of questions, comments, things that you would like for us to address on the show in a Ether Hour episode in a more extensive, perhaps even pre-researched capacity. So be sure to prepare for that. worldwarnow.co. You can get behind the paywall there. That is something that we love to do. We love our Ether Hour Q&As, often some of our favorite episodes. But that will be 2 Ether Hours from now. The upcoming Ether Hour, we are going to be talking about Russia's role, the Russian Empire's role in Syria, in the Levant, in Palestine. So be sure to hold on to your butts for that. We're reading a book from Holy Trinity Publications all about it. So we're going to be discussing that, recording it tomorrow. It should be getting out to you guys sometime this week. So again, thank you all for tuning in. I very much enjoy these evening streams. As I'm getting back into the rhythm, I'm sure they will grow in length once again. This isn't going to be the longest one, I don't think, getting back into the groove of things. But of course, you all know what comes next. Obviously, any questions that come in, I will happily answer, go on any sort of tangent or rabbit trails. People can send links to things they perhaps want me to react to. I'm going to pre-screen it before I put it on the screen, but that's something I will do if you want to send a link or something with a super chat. But you all know what comes next. It's time to play some Ethnoguesser. So it's been a bit too long since I've played this as well. I usually try to play every day, but on my travels, I haven't been able to. So this could be rough. I know in some previous episodes, my performances were not so strong. So keep it kind. No need to call my my physiognomy detection into question here. I'll be very offended. Oh, apologies. Thirsty. $5 from John D. Rock. Do you think because of this new oppressive system, it's worth moving to Russia or similar places? Well, I've given my take on this extensively, but if your family could see itself thriving in a place like Russia, an Orthodox country, then I would definitely not stop you. I would tell you to dive in head first, but that isn't necessarily for everybody. And I think, like St. Paisios said, America will be holy. The fact that Elder Ephraim was able to set up so many monasteries here, I think being Orthodox in America is a unique challenge and is something that I think if you approach with prayer and you approach with a contrite heart and genuine intentions, that will provide many opportunities for sainthood that perhaps the expat in an Orthodox country path may not provide. So don't necessarily forsake your homeland just because an article or I discuss some things about Palantir. But that's not to say I know a lot of people who have clearly the right thing for them was to move to somewhere like Russia. Jonathan Kelly says, can Russia occupy warmer climates? Well, look, I mean, if you go to Crimea, it's quite lovely. Sure, it might get a little bit cool in the winter, but it's not going to be snowing, and there's not going to be, the days aren't super short. You're almost on the Mediterranean. So there are places to go that are not quite that are not quite so cold. But if you want, you can also move to Rostov-Veliki, Father Joseph Gleason. The American village that is being built there is probably a pretty optimal place to find people. But thank you again, John, for the $5. All our super chatters, you're the heroes of the evening. But let's just do the daily game. So if anyone else played the daily game, you can judge me. All right. We got some Africans. They don't look super Nilotic to me, but they're not the most Bantu either. I always want to cheat and just look at the chat and see what people have to say, but yeah, Jason Moranchuk, he says, when Russia finally takes Odessa, that's like living in northern Greece. It's so true. I mean, Odessa, these places used to be heavily occupied by Greek populations. Southern Crimea was part of the Byzantine Empire. So again, Russia does have its nicer climates, but yes, even out in the Far East, actually, there are places that are much more temperate than you might think. So I think people, you don't have to move to St. Petersburg or or the Finnish border. You can move to Rostov-on-Don or Sevastopol or Kerch or something like that. But I'm not rallying the troops for a mass exodus just yet. Things would have to go a very specific direction for me to advocate for something like that. But I don't know. Let's go Cameroon. Not bad. Just classic Bantu. I'm going to try to internalize this face for just standard Bantu because this is just West Africa, Guinea, just like that. All right. Got some Asian boys. And these look pretty East Asian to me, but I don't want that, if these are just straight Kazakhs, I'm going to be infuriated. So I think these could just be Koreans, or these could just be, Chinese, but I'll go North-South Korean border. We did it. North Synod types, named after the Huangho Yellow River. The Yellow River for the yellow people. We love our yellow people. We love our Asians, don't we, folks? Alan Wong, our hero moderator, is himself of the Huangho. Actually, I'm not sure he is. He might be he might be in this gray area. Let us know your phenotype. Let us know your haplogroup in the chat if you know. But round 3. Oh boy. Subcontinentals? Are these Northern Indians? Surprised I haven't gotten more of these in the show. It shows the diversity of this. I'm wondering, unless this is something more from Western Asia that I'm missing, Alan says, my name is Wong, literal Huanghoid namesake. So we got moderator representation in the game. But I'm seeing people in the chat saying Nepal. I'm thinking this is Northern India. Thinking I'll maybe go up here. Not bad. Western, these are Sind people, Indo-Brachid proper, relatively recent Indid Turano Armenid contact type, probably as a result of Old Pashto, Sakha, and Scythian migration. All right. Noted. Not doing too bad. All right. We got some Africans. I mean, this is giving me almost more Caribbean vibes, but we got eyes almost look a little Asian. I'm wondering if this is some kind of some kind of south. Maybe these are people from like Papua New Guinea. Pretty dark. I mean, there's some dark people on Papua, but maybe these are West Africans or are these West Indians? So if these are West Indians, then I'm gonna get like a 0. But I think we're gonna have to play it safe and stick with Africa. Thinking maybe down here. Should have just gone actually in South Africa. But yeah, these are a Bantu. These are the half Khoisan, half Bantu. So that's why they look a little Asian. They look like that. Yep. But you can see where I was coming from, thinking West Indies. All right, we're halfway through. Got some white people. The eyes are just. I can't go. Just obviously, these aren't just like Western Europeans. This guy does not look like David Air. He got a little bit of that David Erhan look to him. I'm wondering if these are Balts or Finns, maybe, or I was thinking Georgian. A little too. I don't know about a little too light to be Georgians. Let's go. Let's go here. Ooh, these are Siberoids, the Ob River Basin. How could I have forgotten the Ob River Basin, man? I'm not even a racist. I'm fake. I'm fake cell. Yeah, it's a little. I should have realized those aren't Europeans. This is the Eastern Horde. This is the Eastern Horde Mongoloids that the brave Ukrainians of Azov are defending the Europe are defending Faustian civilization against. That's I'm just kidding, of course. I'm sure there's some wonderful Orthodox Christians of this Uralid ethnic phenotype. So Paisio says, speaking of David, when we have him on the show to talk about the EP, I don't know. I'll have to reach out to him. I think he is, maybe he already has, but he's, getting married soon and he is very busy. If you go to his channel, he hasn't made a video in 3 months. So where's the content, David? I miss one of my favorite channels. How am I going to go on without my David Erhan, David the Real Med White content? But no, I would like to have David on to talk about Turkish Orthodoxy and the Ecumenical Patriarch. So yeah, it says, these are the people Zelensky is protecting the Troons from. Exactly. So true. All right, let's go to the next one. Now, these are some Nilotes. This is some Myron Gaines, Ethiopia type stuff. Yeah, that's where we go. Didn't even have to think about it. East Ethiopid. So I guess these are Somalians as well, bulbous head type individuals, which I'm sure is good for cognition. Not really sure how you explain Somalians, but I know a lot of smart Ethiopians. A lot of, they're one of the few Christian civilizations in Africa that can actually, claim pre-colonial, maybe not greatness, but respectability. So we love our Ethiopians. We hope you Tiwahido heads in chat or in the audience will return to Orthodoxy, except Chalcedon. I think would be great. Let's move on here. Oh boy. Are these some like jungle Bantu, or are we almost, we're almost veering into Abo territory here, but I think we're still in Africa. Again, unless we're getting West Indified here, but I'm thinking, I want to say West, but I'm thinking also like Congo or something like that. So gonna have to if it's not Africa, I'm gonna be frustrated, but I think it is. So I'm gonna go down here. Oh, I was gonna go Equatorial Guinea because I know they have the lowest IQ, but this isn't bad at all. This was pretty close. Just straight Cameroon, Gabon. I was thinking Gabon, but they do better than Equatorial Guinea, so not bad. I'm doing pretty well. This daily challenge is doing pretty well. I don't know if I've gotten below 2 or 3K. Oh, Is this Africa? Is this even Africa? I'm gonna need some help. Calling in some help from chat here, guys. Is this even Africa, or is this some Polynesian Tongan type nonsense? I mean, Tongans I don't think are this dark. Maybe people on Maldives, but I feel like those people look more Indian. Could these people be Could this be people on Madagascar? I think if it's Africa, the only thing it could be, I think, is Madagascar or Réunion or something like that. But someone's saying it looks like around Sri Lanka or to Micronesia. Well, that would be a good case for the Maldives. East Timor is an option. I think I'm gonna go for it. Dang, these are Itids. Ancient type found in the mountains of the Philippines. This is some Ethnoguesser. This is why we play the game. This is why we play the game. Yeah, never heard of these folks. They're not even on Borneo. They're kind of on some parts of Indonesia. And I actually would have been all right with East Timor, like I thought, but I was not going to have guessed the Philippines. Apparently, they're even in these areas. Wow. Surprised China hasn't pushed them more in their diversity propaganda. So it's only 819 points, my worst score so far. All right, let's finish these next 2 rounds strong. Let's get some perfect scores. Oh boy. We got some Asians. I don't think these are Japanese or Koreans. The guy on the left looks like kind of like the king of Bhutan, but so I'm thinking, could it be like Eastern Chinese, Bhutanese, more mountain Asian? I guess it could just be Southern Chinese. I kind of want to go between I want to go between between Hong Kong and Bhutan. That's kind of what I'm feeling. I guess they could just be like Laotians or something. They look I feel like they'd be a little darker if they were from Laos or from somewhere. I guess they could be Thai. Yeah, Thai could be a good guess. I think I'm just gonna go here, hedge of it. Boom! I got it. Guess these are East Shanids. Plains and river valleys of Indochina, especially from North Thailand to Laos. So, yeah, Laotian, good perfect score. All right, we got some Euros. I'm kind of feeling Slav. Maybe Romanian. Maybe a person from Trieste. Yeah, Montenegro, maybe Romania. Thinking I'm gonna go the Serb-Romanian border. Oh, West Asian type, very similar to European Alpinids. Are these like Rum? West Iran, Caucasus, Palestine. Are these people? These are people that used to be Orthodox, I guess, or did they come from Central Asia? I had 3 perfect rounds, average of 38.05. I'm far on the right side of the bell curve of the best Ethnoguesser players here, so I did all right. Yeah, what's this dot down here? A bunch of these people in Greece. Yeah. Interesting. Not a bad guess, though. So I think that was a pretty good score. That's one of the better rounds I've had. That's top. I'm better than the vast majority of players here. It's top 10% of today's players. So, it's just that we ball is what we do. But any final super chats anybody wants to send in, feel free. Of course, keeping up with the news and everything going on, but not quite as much to discuss this week because again, we recorded a segment for World War Now yesterday and had it added to the show. So normally on Tuesday I'm 4 full days post World War Now recording, but not so much today. So we'll be back on schedule. Look forward to the Ether Hour this week and then the Ether Hour Q&A episode next week. Some other big things are coming up. I haven't really prepared a bunch of announcements. I don't want to really let anything fly before it's prepared, but we should be releasing a very fascinating, first time with English subtitles, a documentary from Metropolitan Tikon of Crimea about the Bolshevik Revolution. So that should be available for the first time on the Substack, on the World War Now Substack. That will eventually be open for everybody to watch for free. So prepare for that. A few other things in the works, articles and whatnot. So again, thank you for supporting worldwarnow.co. If you can't afford the $7 a month or $75 a year, please just become a free supporter. For those that don't know, if you don't want to pay but you want to hear some of the episodes, I believe if you recommend through Substack's referral, feature over 3 people and they subscribe, 3+ people, then you get a free month behind the paywall. And a month, that's a long time. You can listen to a lot of the episodes. So be sure to share the episodes on Substack with your friends and anybody that you think might be interested, because again, you can get some free months of content. Jay Dyer recently, he received a comped month for sharing the show. So anybody can do it. It's greatly appreciated. If you know any monastics that want to listen to the show, let us know, because we give them, of course, lifelong subscriptions. So people are suggesting guests. People are saying Metropolitan Jonah. Maybe we could talk to Metropolitan Jonah about some things. People are saying Father Savas. That would be a great time. We'd love to talk to him. Obviously, we really want to talk to Metropolitan Neophytos. He's just hard to reach. He rarely leaves his metropolis. And of course, we would need a Greek translator. We'd love to talk to Metropolitan Tikon. We'd love to talk to a number of other people. So we have a few bishops and other clergy in the works that we were trying to get on the show as well. But anyone has any connections, anybody has a bit of a line to any Orthodox cleric or someone you might think would be a good guest, feel free to let us know. People suggesting all sorts of stuff. Yes, most hierarchs ultimately I think would be great to talk to, but there are some specific ones that we really think would be great. And again, a general call, we're looking for an expert on Cyprus to talk about. We have a few people in mind, a few people that know their stuff, and I'm learning more and more every day, but I think we really hope to find somebody. Metropolitan Neophytos would be ideal, but if we talk to him, it's not going to be just focused on the Cypriot invasion. So we would like someone who would be able to give us almost a Metropolitan Neophytos tier interview, but specifically about what happened in Cyprus in July 1974. You got $4.99 from Yarn Chicken ETM. My teenage son loves playing Ethnoguesser with you and does pretty well. Well, I love hearing that. That's very heartwarming, actually. See, people say I'm a racist. People say I'm hateful or something, but it's all jokes. It's all fun. We love all people. I think racist humor, restoring some national ethnic pride amongst everybody, can allow us to all relate to each other more. And sure, there may not be multiculturalism, there may be distinct civilizations, neighborhoods, and societies, but I think we'd all be happier if we, if we just kind of get over it a little bit and accept that, yeah, everyone's gonna be a little racist. That's just how it goes. So I'll do my part, but it's fun. I think being able to recognize that, what's the classic meme? It's like, you'd be surprised how tolerant the racist community is. They don't care at all what race you are, just as long as you're being racist. And then you get these people that are like, wow, you know so much about these other cultures. And it's like, yeah, well, because I play games like Ethnoguesser and learn more about other cultures so I could more adequately exclude them from my own. So, most people, that's the classic thing, is people who are all about multiculturalism and letting immigrants and, filling their neighborhood with diversity. These are usually just the people that have never experienced it to begin with. So that's classic. But I hope your son enjoys the show. I always like young people watching, young men. As a young man myself, we're the ones that are going to ultimately have to have to do it for the Lord, when it comes to protecting the kids, protecting the women, doing what we have to do, reversing the alchemical transmutation of the world mind, restoring the understanding of biblical Christian cosmology, fighting against the synagogue of Satan. Young men, they're going to have to do that. So I'm happy for anyone to play Ethnoguesser with me and have a great time. And if you're his mother who's encouraging this instead of being a school marm and longhousing him and telling him he needs to be more like a girl and he needs to be, a nice, happy little good goyim, I appreciate you for raising someone who clearly is fun and has a good time and isn't ashamed of being a man. So respect to you. Someone asked, when you having Michael Hoffman on? That's a good question. We definitely should have Michael Hoffman on. Someone says I might be able to help get Metropolitan Mark of Germany. Well, I like Metropolitan Mark. I hope he's taken a fairly anti-war stance in Ukraine, though. So I hope he isn't too critical of our show and our perspective on the war and what he would some people potentially would call support for the Russian cause. I hope he doesn't find that too offensive and would want to not come on. But we'd love to have all sorts of hierarchs, clerics, people on. I think there's all sorts of again, Metropolitan Neophytos, Metropolitan Tikhon, Metropolitan Sabas from Russia. I think at Metropolitan Porphyrios of the Solovki Monastery, there's a lot of people that would be, I think, really worth talking to. Less, the English language, the list gets smaller and smaller, but still many people that we would like to have on that are fluent in my mother tongue here. But again, any final super chats, anyone can feel free to send those in. I will answer them, but probably last 5 minutes here. I know it's a bit of a shorter stream, but again, like I said, not as much going on this week. And again, I covered a lot of it in the World War Now episode segment we recorded very recently. So one thing I've been thinking about doing is, it may be in lieu of an Ether Hour one week, or maybe if Dimitri just has time, it'll sort of be bonus content, but maybe it'll be a stream that's only accessible to paid subscribers, but we want to do a stream with visuals, sort of like a flow chart, some graphics and whatnot about the current claimants to the Russian throne, the Romanov throne. We would talk about people like Karl Amick, George, Grand Duke George, and any of these other, people that claim to be the rightful successor to the throne of Russia, the Tsardom. So anybody in the comments, let us know what you think we should do for that, because I think in the next few weeks we're going to do that, me and Dimitri, live like I do these shows. So look forward to that. I'm not seeing any new super chats here, so I'm going to sign us on off. Again, I'm going to go back to the Substack. If you want to support the show, be sure to check us out at worldwarnow.co. Get behind the paywall. You can watch all the new episodes of Ether Hour, every episode, going all the way back to episode 1 about uncanonized saints, episode 2 about the first 6 Romanov Tsars, or rather, the last 6 Romanov Tsars of Russia. Episode 20, the truth about pogroms. I'm forgetting the episode number with Abbot Trifon, but we have the episode with him, as well as a number of other guests, Anthony of Westgate, Mom Shalonevsky, Cameron McGregor, Jay Dyer, Father Peter Hears. So get behind the paywall. You can get all of that good content, access to our Q&A threads, as well as access to our premium Discord channels. So that's also linked below. If you want to talk to me on a more regular basis, share some memes, chat throughout the day, get into a heated argument about the shape of the earth or something, check out the World War Now Discord. I'm always in there spurging out, talking, sharing stuff. So those things are all linked down below. Again, worldwarnow.co, worldwarnow.substack.com. That's how you can support us. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, like the video on YouTube, leave a comment, share it. We want the YouTube channel to grow as well, because it's our biggest live streaming platform at this point. Follow us on X as well at worldwarnow_. Follow me on X at Gnomrad. I'm horribly shadow banned, so try to help me break through this current barrier. Get me up to 10,000 followers. If you have to make new accounts, I don't care. Do it. Need some more followers on there, of course. Follow us on Telegram at World War Now Telly. We have a Rumble channel as well. I'm probably going to get back onto posting there fairly soon, but worldwarnow.co, Substack, that is our home base. Thank you to all of our super chatters, especially Alan Wong, Paisios, Yarn Chicken, John D. Rock, everybody else, of course. Who else left a super chat? That was everybody. So Jonathan Kelly. So thank you to all of our super chatters. And of course, next week, Tuesday, 7:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will be back here. There will be an Ether Hour episode released in the next few days about Russia and Syria. And then, of course, another World War Now episode. And then after that, our Ether Hour Q&A. So huge amount of content coming your way. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And I will see you on the next one. God bless.